Bryant scored 47 points and played all 48 minutes in that hard-fought win, especially, again, for Kobe. So, Stephen A. Smith, at any point, did you feel bad for Kobe?
Oh, I've been feeling bad for Kobe for quite some time, and last night it just epitomized and validated all of my feelings about these Los Angeles Lakers. Let me be very, very clear, and let me put everybody on notice. It's not like I'm hot and I'm en route to L.A. in the next 24 hours, okay? I think the Los Angeles Lakers are a disgrace, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to say that. It's just a complete miscarriage of justice in my mind, Skip, that Kobe Bryant is being subjected to this nonsense. When you're playing all 48 minutes, this dude is in his 17th season. This may be very well his last 2 years in the NBA, this season and next season. And as I watch this guy play at a surreal level, a level that I have not seen anybody in their 17th NBA season play, all I could think about is how this season is a wash, is being wasted away because of the decisions that were made by Jim Buss, because of his ego, not because of his basketball acumen. The fact that you have a 5-time world champion, a guy who is still one of the best players in this game, a surefire first ballot future Hall of Famer, a scoring champion, a league MVP, an NBA Finals MVP, still on your roster, and you subject him to a situation where he doesn't have the ideal coach, he doesn't have the ideal roster, and he doesn't have the ideal infrastructure in place in terms of upper management, not to question Mitch Kupchak, because I have profound respect for him, but we all know that he answers to Jim Buss. For Kobe Bryant to be subjected to having to play 48 minutes one night, 47 another night, 44 minutes, just to get to the 8th seed in the Western Conference playoffs, when there are a couple of decisions, just a mere couple of decisions that you could have made that could have benefited this team and him, I just find as egregious as it gets, as disgusting as it gets. It's hard for me to enjoy what I'm seeing the way that I should, because we are lucky, Skip, right now, whether it's Jordan, whether it's MJ, whether it's LeBron, any superstar that goes out there and gives us what he's given us from here, okay? And you don't have the pieces in place where decisions are being made for the betterment of the team, and it's usurped because of your ego, your willingness to throw everything aside just because you want to do what you want to do, which is exactly what Jim Buss has done here. I think it's disgusting, man. And it's sad to see, because I look at Kobe Bryant and I'm saying to myself, I don't know how much he has left. He seems to have a lot left. But imagine what he could have been doing if Phil Jackson was the coach and Pau Gasol and Dwight Howard and that combination was utilized effectively. Imagine how it would have saved Steve Nash's legs along the way. Imagine what it would have done for Metta World Peace. Imagine what it would have done for a plethora of individuals on this roster if the right decisions were made. And imagine how much all of those things would have helped preserve Kobe Bryant instead of literally pushing him out the door to the point of exhaustion, because he's got to do all the things that he's got to do just to make the 8th seed in the Western Conference. It's hard for me not to think about those things, Skip.
So you feel sorry right now for Kobe Bryant?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I don't at all. And I'll tell you why. I think Kobe Bryant right now is having the time of his basketball life. I think he is loving this challenge. I think he is jumping out of bed on his sore, tired legs every morning, Stephen A., because this is fun for him. He put it out there a week ago. He said, not only are we going to make the playoffs, he basically guaranteed that, but he said, nobody wants to play us in the first round, and that is the truth. And he's making it more of the truth night after night after night. And again, Stephen A., did Jim Buss put this team in the position it's in injury-wise? You want to talk decimated? This is the definition of decimated. Injury-wise, let's just remind our viewers of what Kobe's team has gone through this year, because I start off with Pau Gasol missed 33 games, Stephen A. He's just now getting back in some kind of playing shape. And Steve Nash, you remember early missed games? He's 39 years of age. Now he looks like he's gone for maybe the rest of the year. They are missing one of the most clutch three-point shooters in big games this league has ever seen. And Kobe's doing it without Nash now. And you know, and I know, Dwight wasn't right coming off back surgery. He wasn't in shape. He admitted to that. And then he says he tore his labrum in his shoulder. Well, that's double jeopardy for Dwight Howard. Meta, you know, is coming off his knee surgery, and he's not quite right yet. And Steve Blake is a key part to this team. He got 7 big boards last night that were crucial in this game. And he missed 37 games this year, Stephen A. I can just keep going on and on. They were decimated, and think about what happened. They went through a whole training camp, whole offseason with Mike Brown as the head coach, and they were good with that. 5 games in, he's gone, and then Bernie Bickerstaff for 5 more games as interim. Then D'Antoni's coming off knee surgery, so he wasn't ready to be the coach. It has been upheaval from start to finish, and yet, back on, remember January 27th when Oklahoma City visited Staples? And I think Kobe made an announcement that day. They beat the Thunder, and from that point on, they are 24-12. They went from tied for 10th to the 8th spot. And he's playing 10 years younger than he played this time a year ago when he was a sad shell of himself, because now no team has more late season motivation than Kobe's team. I feel sorry for the team that it went through all the injuries. I don't know that you can pin those on Jim Buss unless you just want to do the age of Nash, you know, and Gasol. I don't know. I mean, I can't condemn Jim Buss for all that.
I can, and I can do it with relative ease, to be quite honest with you. On a regular basis, you hearken back to statements that you have made previously on a plethora of issues just to make your point. Allow me to do the same. When Mike D'Antoni was hired, what did I tell you? Did I not tell you, look at this roster? Did I not tell you that my concern was almost tantamount to what the Knicks would ultimately go through in terms of injuries? When I talked about Dwight Howard coming off his back surgery, when I talked about Pau Gasol, who had knee issues in the past, when I talked about Steve Nash, who was approaching 39 years of age, when I talked about Kobe, who was in the 17th season, when I even talked about Meta World Peace, what did I say to you, Skip? At the very beginning, this is within an hour of learning of the Mike D'Antoni hire. I told you, these are the kind of things that's going to happen, because you can't ask a team with this kind of mileage on their bodies to play at a particular pace. You have to guard against that. When you hire a coach, oh, by the way, we know Mike D'Antoni knows the game of basketball. We know that he's brilliant offensively. We also know that he has a lot to learn defensively. We also know he told the team that when he had his first meeting with them.
I agree.
And we also know, Skip, like you just pointed out, he wasn't even ready to coach.
No.
He wasn't even ready to coach because his hips were messed up and all of that stuff. So that's another problem, okay? Then when you consider all of that, and you consider what you had in terms of Phil Jackson, who was probably willing to come back and coach.
I agree.
He's an 11-time champion, but more importantly, he has a system that you're familiar with, not to mention the fact that a guy like Dwight Howard, who is supposed to be the cornerstone of your franchise in the post-Kobe era, that's the man he wanted. You got all of these things into consideration, and you make the call that you make. Why? So you can get to the playoffs? This is Laker Nation we're talking about here. This is a franchise with 16 world championships on its resume. Banners hanging in the rafters of the Staples Center. We're measuring you by 8 seed in the Western Conference now? This is utterly ridiculous.
Okay, but
and then when you consider...
Yeah, look, I'm with you on D'Antoni. I'm no fan of D'Antoni's. I was right there with you when they picked D'Antoni over Phil. It was...
This is not as enjoyable as you think. It might be enjoyable for the 48 minutes that he's playing.
Yeah.
It ain't enjoyable the preparation it takes. It ain't enjoyable the rehab he has to go through once he's finished. It's not enjoyable being on the precipice of being bounced from postseason play, fighting and clawing your way. Why do you think? Do you connect the dots? Let me do it for you. You watch Shaq on TNT or NBA TV, you think it's an accident insisting on Dwight Howard stepping up? Do you really think it's really about pettiness that Shaq sits there and calls out Dwight Howard to average 20 and 15 or 28 and 15? You think it's just about the standard that Shaq was held to? No. It also has something to do with the fact that he and Kobe have mended fences. They talk. And Shaq understands what it takes for Laker Nation to be Laker Nation. He knows what Kobe needs. Other people, Robert Horry, Rick Fox, Ron Harper, list goes on and on. Talk to these people who are former teammates of this dude. It is not an accident that these words are coming out of their mouth, because they know what Kobe is going through in order to push this team to that level. This is no joke.
Are you suggesting that Jim Buss was wrong to acquire Dwight Howard?
No. I'm suggesting that if you know you have Dwight Howard and you know what the situation is in terms of your personnel, that you allow your ego to move aside and you make a decision in the best interest of the organization and the franchise as opposed to yourself. You let Mitch Kupchak do his job. Mitch Kupchak is a big-time general manager in this business. He's not flawless, but his record speaks for itself. The man knows what he's doing. And you don't sit there and get in the way because you got problems with your sister, because you don't particularly like Kobe at one time. You got to remember, even when he hired Mike Brown, Kobe Bryant and those boys all wanted Brian Shaw. The roster that you had was familiar with Brian Shaw. You didn't want Brian Shaw. You wanted Mike Brown. Then you get rid of Mike Brown 5 games into the season. You commit that level of injustice. I'm not knocking D'Antoni because the man can coach, but if you look at this roster, all you're doing is you're exhausting everything. You literally are running bodies into the ground. That is not what Laker Nation is about. That is not what a smart basketball franchise does to its resident stars and superstars, and one of the greatest superstars that has ever blessed this game. You don't do that. And that's exactly what Jim Buss has done.
Okay, I'll also point out, remember, Jordan Hill, who's a fine young player, gone for the year. So there's a young body you don't have anymore, Stephen A. And I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. Did you say going into the season, as we started the season with Mike Brown as coach, did you say then that you thought this roster was so old that they were going to be in danger of missing the playoffs? I don't recall.
No, I didn't. Hold on, no. I did not say that. And the reason why I didn't say that is because what was Mike Brown known for? 2 things. His defense and his willingness to feed the big boys. Now, whether that was going to be effective or not remained to be seen, because he certainly wasn't the offensive mind that Mike D'Antoni is. But defensively and feeding the bigs and playing at a slower pace because you understood the kind of roster you had was what Mike Brown was going to do. So as a result, it wasn't an accident that they got to the second round last year. Making the playoffs wasn't an issue. How far they were going to go was an issue because you questioned how effective he could operate as a head coach on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, they were going to be up there. And more importantly, bodies were not going to be breaking down every time you turned around, because Mike Brown would have implemented a system that would have at least protected them from that.
Okay.
That's my point. Kobe is being worn down.
Okay, I hear you. But bottom line, I rooted against my Spurs last night in Denver because I don't want my Spurs to face any part of Mamba and his team right now in the first round. I don't want the top seed. And trust me, there are those in Oklahoma City right now thinking, uh-oh, this could be a little more difficult than you think.
Okay, you keep thinking that.
All right, gentlemen, you leave us with a lot to think about. It is an unfortunate time for Laker Nation, but if they do make the playoffs, seemingly skies is the limit. Moving on here.
They'll make the playoffs.
I know they will. The 77th Masters is underway, and there are many storylines that will take shape.